Great. So, welcome everyone to your session on storytelling with impact, where you'll be learning about creating impactful digital content that tells your organization's stories. It'd be great to see some more introductions in the chat. I can see Jasmine is calling us in from Bath, but where are you calling in from? So let's go through the agenda for today. We're diving into one of my favorite topics, which is digital storytelling, and we'll be exploring how you can use powerful narratives to showcase the real impact of your work. And here's what we will be covering together. So first, we'll be starting off with the power of storytelling. So we'll be starting by looking at why stories matter, why they're so much more than just words, and also how they can connect with people on an emotional level in ways that facts and figures alone can't. And then we're going to be looking at building digital narratives. So we'll be unpacking the different elements that go into crafting a strong digital story and how you could weave these together to create narratives that really do inspire action. And then we'll be looking at some examples in action. Together, we'll explore what makes them work, what could be improved, and also the lessons you could take away from for your own storytelling. And then, of course, we'll be looking at best practices and also hoping you leave here today with some tools under your belt. So I'll be walking you through the storytelling for impact tool, just so you could confidently start shaping your own stories straight away. And then, as always, we'll have time at the end for next steps and any questions that you may have. Just to introduce myself first, so I'm Simran and I come from having 5 years of experience of working in social media and outreach within the charity sector. And storytelling was, of course, very vital to communicating our mission and building that key relationship with our audience that then encourages them to take that step further, either whether it's donating or signing a petition. But it's not just me on the call today. I'm also joined by my lovely colleague, Pilar.
Thank you, Simram. I'm Pilar. I think I haven't met many of you. I'm a digital communications coach here at Liveful as well. And my background is in digital communications and marketing. I have worked for commercial and non-profit brands, a lot in storytelling, a lot in creating content that really connects with people. So I'm hoping to be able to share some of that knowledge with you today as well. So let me tell you a little bit more about the learning outcomes that we have for you today. So first of all, by the end of today, we would like you to be able to explain how storytelling inspires action, trust, and stronger connections. Also, we are gonna, as Rinran was saying, we're gonna look at frameworks. So it's about how you're gonna apply those frameworks to create compelling impact stories, and then how you're gonna be able to adapt a core story across different digital channels to be able to engage with different audiences. Before we get started, I want to ask you a couple of questions. So I'm gonna be launching a couple of polls actually. The first one, you're going to see it now, and is whether you currently are using storytelling already in your online content. And the second one is how confident do you feel about telling your organization's story online as well. So let's have a look at those answers. Okay. See, half of you have already participated in the poll. I see many of you have actually used storytelling in your online content already. And in terms of confidence levels, there's a mix of level of confidence here. Like some of you are a 4 or a 5, but some of you are perhaps not so confident. So I'm gonna leave that up. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 people left to complete it. So I'll leave that up for a few more seconds whilst we get started. And the second one is actually another question that I have for you to kind of break the ice a little bit. So it's about understanding what stories you share. So when you are online, what stories are you sharing with your audiences? So for those of you that are already sharing stories, what kind of stories are you sharing? And you can either let us know in the chat or come off mute to talk to us about that. So tell us, what types of stories are you already sharing? And I give you a few seconds to think about this as well. Okay, so we have a couple of answers already. So co-created stories featuring our service users or beneficiaries, or we also have Ellie, stories of people we support. So that's really, really great. What else? What other stories may you be sharing? Okay, so we have Jude, stories of people's life experiences and how we have interacted with or supported them, for example, in cases of discrimination. So we have Oriel, same stories of an angel investor, one of our members. Good. So these are great, and we are going to see some examples of this as well. I have one more here, a couple of more stories about how our participants have become more confident. So kind of that change that you have seen in your members, success stories from project beneficiaries. Also, Shibong is saying we've done a series of Meet the Pocket Foresters, short videos to give a flavor of who we work with and what motivates them. So that's great. And I would actually love to see some of these stories as well. So I'll take a look at your organizations after this and have a look at those stories that you're already sharing. But for now, let's have a look at why storytelling matters. And you're already sharing a story, so you already know the power of storytelling. But we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the potential of storytelling for nonprofits. So storytelling, as you can see, is one of the most effective ways to attract support and to inspire action. And this is because stories bring people together. They create empathy, they build trust, they stir emotion, and they spark loyalty. So, what does this mean for the nonprofit world? It's more than just a marketing tactic. It's about building a strong, lasting relationships with your audience. Because, as you know, people want to connect with real people, with real experiences. And the great news, and I can see that from your examples already, is that your organizations already have these stories all around you, either from service users or from your members or people within your team even. So by the end of today, my hope is that you feel inspired and more equipped to bring those stories to life and to take this incredible work that you're already doing in your communities and share it in a way that really resonates with your donors, with your service users, supporters, and partners. So we are going to explore storytelling frameworks, digital tools that can help you shape your stories with impact. So your audiences don't just understand what you do, but actually feel moved to take action alongside you. And as you can see as well, the best communicators probably all around you in the content that you consume as well are storytellers. And this is because stories have this unique way of finding their way into our hearts and our minds, and they help us learn from each other. So they are an incredible tool for raising awareness, mobilizing volunteers, building trust with donors and supporters, and also for fundraising. In fact, there's a lot of research behind this as well. So there's research from Harvard showing that whenever we hear a story, our brains release oxytocin. So oxytocin is the hormone linked to trust, to empathy, to building connections with other people. So this means that really as humans, we are wired to respond more strongly to storytelling than just facts or figures. There's another powerful finding as well, which shows that we are 22 times more likely to remember a fact if it's wrapped inside a story. And you probably have used that in your personal life as well when trying to memorize data, trying to memorize statistics. This is a really great technique to kind of keep those stats in your mind. So do the same when you think about any statistics that you are sharing about your work or the problem that you are addressing. Ask yourself, okay, how can I humanize this number? what story kind of wraps this data that I'm trying to show to people? How can I bring it to life through a story? And that could be a community story, it could be the journey of one specific individual. And it's just how you make sure that the information really sticks with your audience and they remember it and they take action. So we've touched on this already, but I kind of want to go a little bit deeper even. Three key reasons why stories are important. First of all, it's about understanding your context. It helps people understand your context. So the challenges your community is facing, the problems that you are tackling, and why you exist, why your organization exists. So a well-told story sets the scene for your work and makes your mission more real. But they don't, stories just not they are not there just to explain but also to move people. So whilst we have logic and data and that matters, most decisions that we take as humans, we make them on an emotional level. So emotion mixed with logic is what transforms someone from a passive member of the public into a supporter, and from a supporter into a donor as well. So um, we need more than data to connect and to actually take some action. Also, stories is what kind of highlight those common experiences that we can all relate to, that sense of a shared humanity. And this is really meaningful for nonprofits because emotion is what motivates charitable action as well. So, with all of that in mind, I actually want to start a discussion with all of you. And I know that we share in your WhatsApp group to start thinking about a nonprofit that you admire and the stories that you really remember from them. So, I want to invite you to share with us those stories that really stuck with you, that you really remember. So again, post it in the chat, come off mute to let us know what are those stories from a nonprofit you admire that stuck with you. And I give you again a few seconds to think about it and to type. Or to come off mute. Please feel free. We love you. We love when you do that as well. Okay, so we have one from Jude. The calm campaign around the last photo was incredibly moving. Oh, I haven't seen that. I would love to see that.
So yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, it was
Yeah.
the campaign against living miserably, and they did I guess it was sort of as visual as much as the actual stories, but a load of photographs of people, and it was the last photographs they had taken before they'd taken their own lives.
Mm,
And it was really impactful because they looked like happy, portraits, happy family photos,
wow.
and it really, kind of brought home a fact. It was an incredible
Wow.
way of telling putting a different slant and telling a different story.
Mm, yeah, that's great. And we are gonna talk later about the importance of visuals as well. So that's a great example. You thanks so much for sharing. Oh, and there's a link from Jasmine to the campaign. Thank you as well for sharing that. Anything else that comes to mind from anyone else? So, some coming from Hannah. I like the approach Greenpeace takes for its campaigns, big, bold, eye-catching statements that immediately make you stop and look. Yes, they are definitely super impactful as well. And they have, in the past 2 years, they have really made a change in how they do it, especially on Instagram. So it's really worth following them. Um, Okay, and we have another one from Shibong. We have a local social enterprise called Change Clothes, who have some excellent storytelling on their social media, and you left us the link there, which is great for everyone to have a look at as well. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Maybe we can share one more. If not, keep them coming because these are great inspiration for the group as well. So we love to have more of them there, and we'll be sharing some examples later as well. But for now, I'm going to hand you back to Simram to talk about the frameworks that we were kind of teasing you about. Back
Thank
to you,
you,
Simram.
Pilar. Yeah, so now we've established why storytelling is so important and useful. And so now we're going to be diving into some frameworks that you can use to make your storytelling very impactful. So the first framework is the digital storytelling roadmap. So if you can try and capture the different elements of this roadmap in your online storytelling, no matter what platform it's on, it will make your stories much more effective and engaging for the right audience. So it speaks to the right people with the right message. But it will also make your stories much more successful at encouraging action. So let's have a look at what this roadmap looks like. So first, we're going to start off with your character, and that's because we know that every great story starts with a character, and this is the person that your audience can connect with emotionally. In nonprofit storytelling, it might be a beneficiary whose life has been changed, a community leader, a volunteer, or even a supporter. And the key is that the character feels relatable and human and isn't abstract. I think there was a study done a couple of years ago called the details uh the donor is in the details. So they basically found that donors were more likely to relate when you focus on a specific person as opposed to like a broad or abstract group or just the name of the community, but kind of focusing on that person, which is a really important study. And then we have your challenge. So once we have our character, we need to understand their challenge. And this is the problem, barrier, or situation that they faced before your organization stepped in. And the challenge creates tension in the story, which is what makes people care. Without a challenge, there's no reason for your audience to keep listening or even to pursue that further action of donating or signing a petition. Or even hitting follow on your Instagram to stay updated on how you're kind of going about um, challenging this challenge. Yeah, so let's move on to the next one, which is action. And action is where your organization comes in. And the action is what your nonprofit did to help overcome that challenge. It could be a program that you delivered, a campaign you ran, or the support that you provided. And it's essentially the action connects your mission to the character's journey. And then we have impact, and this is where you show the results. That is the transformation that happened because of the action. Um, and this is where your audience sees the difference made in real lives. Was someone's life changed? Was a community strengthened? And so on. Those are the kind of questions that are important to ask yourself. And this is the moment that sparks hope and shows your credibility. So definitely an important step not skip. And then we have our call to action. And that's because finally, every story needs one. Once your audience is emotionally engaged, they will want to know, what can I do to help? And this is where you direct them, whether it's to donate, volunteer, sign a petition, or simply share the story. And without a call to action, you really do risk inspiring people without actually mobilizing them. So another really important step. So just to recap everything I've said, um, what forms this digital storytelling roadmap is your character, challenge, action, impact, and call to action. And if you can build your stories with these 5 elements, you'll have a roadmap for creating narratives that connect very deeply and also move people to act. Now I want to move on to our next storytelling framework, which is called the ABT method. Some people may be familiar with this. It's a simple but incredibly powerful structure that was developed by Randy Olson, who was a scientist who became a filmmaker. And his big insight was that stories became far more compelling when they follow a natural rhythm of setup, tension, and resolution. And that's exactly what ABT gives us. So first you have your and this is where you set the scene. So you bring your audience into the world of your story by sharing facts, context, or the current situation. And we want you to think of this as laying down the foundation, and it helps your audience feel grounded and understand why this story matters. And then we have your but, and here's where things get interesting. You introduce a challenge, problem, or source of tension. And it's essential because without conflict or contrast, as I mentioned before, stories can feel flat. So the but moment grabs attention and makes people lean in, and it's the spark that creates curiosity. Then we have your therefore. So finally, you provide the resolution or the way forward. And it's basically the so what moment where you show the action that's taken, the solution that you're offering, or the change made that's possible. And it's where you leave your audience with clarity, hope, and often a call to action. So, what's powerful about ABT is that it mirrors how our brains are wired to follow stories. We naturally expect to hear a flow of situation, problem, and solution, and that rhythm keeps us engaged and it makes the story far more memorable. So let's look at an example to see the difference that this framework can make. So on your screens now, you can see an example without ABT, and that says, our nonprofit works with local schools, we run after school programs, and we provide mentorship. And this version is descriptive, but it feels flat. It's just a line of facts, and there's nothing to really draw the audience in. And then we have with ABT. So this is how it can be transformed. So we have our nonprofit works with local schools and provides after school programs that give young people a safe place to learn and grow. But many children in our community still lack access to mentors and opportunities. Therefore, we're launching a new mentorship initiative to ensure every child has the support they need to thrive. So notice how this version has an arc. It sets the scene, creates tension, and then shows the solution. It's far more engaging and memorable. And why does it work? It's simple and easy for anyone to use, whether that's your staff, volunteers, and even supporters. And also the but introduces tension, which sparks curiosity and keeps people listening. Also, the therefore naturally leads to action, whether that's donating, signing up, or sharing. Now, ABT is a fantastic tool, but it does have limitations. Unlike the digital storytelling roadmap that we looked at earlier, it doesn't always highlight a person's voice or include a strong call to action. So instead, we really just want you to think of it as one tool in your storytelling toolkit, and we want you to use it when you need clarity and focus. But please do balance it with other frameworks when you want to add more personal connection. So, during the storytelling roadmap, I mentioned that your main character of your story could be a service user or could be someone from within your organization. Just to break this down a bit further, we can divide the types of stories to tell and the main characters to focus on into different categories. So here are just some examples of the categories your stories could fall into, because storytelling isn't just about the work that you're doing and the people you're helping, although that will often be central to it. It can actually be useful to think of these three different storytelling narratives that you could tell with your digital content. So first you have your people you serve story. So this is answering the question of how have people been authentically transformed by your organization's program? who um who are the people that you are serving, and also with the consent, make sure that you have the consent to tell their stories. Consent in storytelling is something we'll be looking at in a lot more detail later on in this month in your ethical storytelling digital drop-in. So after your people you serve story, you have your behind the scenes story. And this is the inside story of how your organization delivers your program. And this helps to give a face to your organization. And then you have your personal passion story. Again, with consent, your donors or brand champions can share why they are passionate about your organization and why they donate. And this helps to build a personal connection between your donors and your supporters. So I definitely recommend treating these stories as a bit of a pick and mix. Choose which ones go together, whether it's one solo one day or just kind of mixing them together. I think they're all really important in their own right and deserve a spot on your social channels um, at a point. So I'm now going to hand it over Back over to Pilar.
Thank you. So now we are gonna share some examples from our side as well to inspire you. So the first one I wanted to share is actually a video. Before I click play, this video is from Feeding America, and you uses storytelling really effectively, and you see that it follows much of the structure outlined by Simran earlier. So let's play the video and then I'll ask you a couple of questions.
A little girl handed me her report card, and she told me my grades are now better because I get breakfast every morning from the food pantry. And it broke my heart. No kid should have to worry about what they're going to eat before they go to school. My mom had to work 2 and 3 part-time jobs just to make ends meet. And once I started having a family, I didn't want to live that way. I used to work for a cable company. I was out in the city doing a job, and I took a piece of coax through my eye. I lost a significant amount of eyesight, and I was left unemployed. Things took a turn for the worse for us. You have to decide whether you buy groceries or you put money on the light bill. Do you power your house? Do you heat your house? Or do you put food in your kid's stomach? Some days, me and my wife went without eating just to make sure the kids had enough. One thing you want to never do is be able to not provide for your family. And my wife was just insistent on, you know, yes, you have provided for us for years, but we need help right now. So I used to receive assistance here at the food pantry, and I am now actually a director here. The best thing that happened for me was getting hurt on my job and getting me back to the things that I love to do, and that's helping families. Seeing that light come back on once a family has been broken down, it is an amazing feeling, and there's no paycheck that can compensate for that. Families do fall on hard times. We all could be one paycheck away from being in their situation as well.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions. First of all, what do you like about this video? I want to know from you what you like about this video. And then something else. There's perhaps something that could be added at the end. So I want to know from you, what else would you add to the video? And type in the chat, come off mute. Yes, Hannah, there's something there missing, right? Call to action at the end. Yes, someone else is saying, Christina, they could have added ways that people can support their work. Jude, I like that the person talking had got lived experience as well as representing the charity, didn't come across as patronized. I think the choice of the person in this case is brilliant as well. A clearer call to action at the end, Shibong, of course, yeah, clear call to action, donate, become a volunteer. Yes, Matt, it's a lovely video, great example also of the hero's journey. Yes, definitely. Or really, I like starting from a personal experience, exactly, call to action with direct link. Carrie, I like the vulnerability he shows by speaking about the tension between his desire to be a provider and how his wife had to tell him, but we need help. Yeah, that's a brilliant moment as well. That shows you that it comes from a real place, and when he talks about doing his job because of passion. Definitely, I mean, all of these comments are really great in that sense, because you have such a powerful story with this real experience as well, and then at the end there is nothing to, like, you have people ready to like do something like, how do I support you, how do I help you, and there is no next step, right? How do you guide people? So that's going to be really, really important. And Christina as well, it shows the main character being empowered through the program, going from service user to community leader. That's really, really good. Okay, so I have another example, because it doesn't always have to be video. And sometimes we see these videos and we think, oh, we need high production, we need to make the best videos, be producing things like this. And it's great, if you can, but actually when it comes to videos, sometimes something less polished, sometimes something more authentic can be really engaging for people as well. But you can also use different formats. And the one that you see here as well shows you, you can tell a story with an image and some text and maybe a quote. So having a quote from an individual, a name, a picture really brings the story to life as well. So not thinking about big groups of people, but about one person that can tell the story of your organization through their voice as well. And you can even go further. In the next example, what we have is more of a carousel. So if you cannot make a video, you can also have a set of images, a series of images that tell that story using a quote, an image, and text as well. So you see here how they do that really powerfully too. Also, I have another example, which is a blog or a website article. So this could be like a more long form piece of content where you're telling a personal passion story through a whole article, a blog. You have quotes within the article. It could even be an interview, like in this case. So I want you to now have a think about the stories you already have within your organization, and if there is any way that you could repurpose them or tell them in a different way. For example, you may have articles that you want to tell through images or through videos, or the other way around as well. So how can you use the content that you already have to repurpose it and use it in a different way and kind of extend the life of that content? So this is just something for you to reflect on as I move into the best practices. So we have definitely some best practices for digital storytelling. First one is keep it simple. And now you may be thinking, oh, but I have so much to tell. I want to, if you think about the structure that Simran was taking us through, I need to identify a challenge, then pose a solution, have your main character go on a journey, and I have lots of content to share. Yes, but it's important to think about how to keep your stories clear and concise and make them as brief as possible whilst being informative. Why? Because all of us know that attention span online is really short. It's actually under 2 seconds. So it's really important that your story grabs your audience's attention straight away. And a way that you can do that in those 2 seconds is, you have different techniques, but asking a question straight away is really useful, or maybe sharing a key stat that is impactful, that makes people stop, or using some key power words that grab people's attention as well. And as you show at the beginning with the examples that you share, digital storytelling is a very visual process. So it's not just about copy, it's about photos, videos, sound bites. So it's really important to always think about how you can optimize your content. Because when you have images, sometimes we think about images that we see big when we see them in our computers, but we need to also think about mobile devices, because most of your audience are probably looking at your content on their mobile phones rather than desktop. So you need to always think mobile first. So think about what everything will look like, the size of your text, the color contrast, the detail in your images, the framing of your video, and always test it. Have a look at how it will look on mobile. Now, if you want to preview your content on mobile, a great way to do it is using a kind of social media management tools. You can use the Liveful platform to do that as well, to see what your content is gonna look like. So it shows you what it's gonna look like on desktop and on mobile. Another thing to think about when you think about mobile is the way people behave is differently. So they are scrolling fast, they are looking for things to jump out at them and capture their attention. So you need to ensure that your content is easy to skim, because that's how we read on mobile. So think about short sentences, regular paragraph breaks, make the information really easy to digest. Also, think about how your content is going to look like and how it's going to adapt to different digital platforms, because different platforms basically have like a different language, different formats. So they also have different audiences. So it's really important to tap into how the content appears across each platform. And that doesn't mean that you need to be creating different pieces of content for each content platform. It's about tweaking. So it's about how you realistically can adapt the language, the imagery, or the resources that you are sharing. So again, preview your content, see how it's going to look on different platforms, and make sure that you can do that also on the Liveful platform. And this brings me to my next point, which is experimenting. So don't be afraid to test. Digital storytelling, as I said before, is really visual. It's a really creative medium. So you need to test new ideas, because testing these ideas will give you insights about what people like to see and how the content is performing. So using those insights, you are able to know what worked, what didn't work, and then put it into practice in your future content as well. And digital storytelling is really a constant cycle of testing and learning. It's how you get better at understanding the different content that your online audience responds to. And also, it's worth noting that sometimes we don't get it right. So don't be disheartened if you don't achieve your goals straight away. Finally, always prioritize ethics and authenticity. We're going to be talking more about this in your next workshop. So we're going to go into ethical storytelling. So make sure that you come to that one as well. And now that we talked about best practices, I want to talk to you as well about common pitfalls, right? So it's important to avoid these kind of mistakes, I guess, or these ways of doing things. The first one is packing your content with data, right? And not having enough emotion. So it's tempting to lead with statistics, like saying we serve 10,000 meals, or we reach 3,000 young people. And numbers are really important, but on their own, they don't really move people emotionally. So data speaks to the mind, but stories touch the heart. So we need to combine both. We need to have balance between using one person's story to represent the bigger impact, and then supporting it with data. So to give you an example of that, this is a good story that you could share. So when Sarah lost her home, we were able to help her. And last year, we supported more than 1,000 families like hers. So you see how you bring those two things together, like the individual story and then the volume kind of of your work, of your impact as well. So that way you get the emotional connection and also the credibility. Now, as we saw in the example from Feeding America, not having a clear call to action is a missing opportunity. So at the end, it's important to tell people what you want them to do, right? So whether that is donating, sharing the content, volunteering, signing up for updates, it doesn't always have to be about the money. Sometimes it's a simple action, like amplifying your message. But the important thing is to channel the emotion you created through the story into momentum for your mission. And the final one is, this is something that we see quite a lot, like being organization-centric rather than audience-centric. So a lot of profits start with, our organization was founded in, or we have a vision too, which is not necessarily wrong, but it doesn't hook your audience. So instead, center your story on the people you serve or the supporters' role in making that change possible. So think about it in this way. Your nonprofit is not the hero, the character is the hero. So often the supporter needs to feel part of that heroic journey. So when people see themselves in that story, they are more likely to engage. So to avoid these pitfalls, just balance emotion with data, focus on your audience and the people you serve rather than your organization, and always end with a call to action. So that way your stories are not just inspiring people, that they are actually driving change too. And I'm going to hand you back to Simran now to tell you a bit more about that.
Thank you. So now we've given you frameworks that you can follow and tips for what to include and what to avoid when crafting your stories. Let's get you set up with some tools and resources that you can actually use to put everything you've learned today in practice. So the first resource that we have to share with you is the Lightful Academy course, which is called An Introduction to Digital Storytelling. And this course guides you through the essentials of digital storytelling with practical steps that you can use, um, um, practical steps you could take to use story mapping to create draft story ideas for your organization. And story mapping is a process that you can follow when you're writing your storytelling content. And it's where you answer 5 questions. And by doing so, you'll be guided along the storytelling roadmap that we shared earlier on. And those questions are, who is the main character? What is the challenge? What action did they take with your nonprofit or social impact organization? And what changed as a result, as well as what's the call to action? So by answering these questions in your story, you will have crafted a very impactful piece of storytelling content. So definitely recommend that course, and Jasmine has shared that link in the chat now. And then once your story has been drafted through that course, you can then perfect it using the Storytelling for Impact tool on the Lightful platform. So Storytelling for Impact will help you create purpose-driven stories that are ethically sound and follow the principles of good storytelling. And all you have to do is paste your story into the tool and then receive helpful feedback from Lightful's AI assistant. So I'm just going to demo that now. Okay, so once you click on the link that Jasmine has provided, you'll be sent onto a page that looks like this. So here basically you paste or you write your story that you have in mind over here. So I'm just going to paste one that we were looking at before. And then you actually also have the choice to add the story's purpose, which is optional, but I highly recommend just to make sure that the AI feedback you get is tailored to your specific situation and context. So for instance, just to be very vague here, I'm going to say, we want people to donate to our services. So just gives a quick insight to the AI bot of what the action we want people to take as a result of reading our story. And then I'm going to click Get AI Feedback. Sometimes it takes a while to load, but it should not be long. But essentially, the idea with our AI tools is that we don't want AI to essentially rewrite the whole thing for you. We don't want to take the human out of this process. So you won't be getting an answer that rewrites the whole story into a way that will, you know, relate to your audience, but instead it will give you some prompt questions for you to really consider and think about. So for instance, over here, this is just feedback round 1. Again, you could take as many rounds as you want. We've got questions around ethics here. So it asks me questions around the authenticity, as well as the dignity of people who I've included. And these questions are really good prompts, I feel like, for maybe being the leeway to splitting the story into 2 or creating like more than one specific social media post out of. So I definitely do recommend like tucking into these questions. And then if you go on to the purpose, so these are prompts that the AI feedback has given as a result of me saying that I want people to donate as a result of reading my story. So it gives an analysis of my story and also gives some suggestions. So for instance, it says, why should donors care more about more people joining your program? What difference does donor support make? So here I will then go back and rewrite and maybe be like, oh, just giving £5 a month will help this. And I definitely recommend going through that whole drafting process. And they also provide a checklist here for you to tick off and just to check your story by. So make sure that you're clarifying the impact that people have, people can have from reading your story, as well as the impact that you are having, and making sure that you're providing context and specifics for people that may be approaching your organization for the very first time. And won't be as familiar as you are with your mission. So I definitely recommend having a play with that tool. And now I'm going to move on and ask you a question, because as we wrap up today's masterclass, I want to know, what story have you been inspired to create next for your organization? So please do feel free to post it in the chat or come off mute and let us know. Maybe there's something that you read that we shared today. I mean, not read, heard. But yeah, what kind of stories have you been inspired to maybe shed a light on that you may not have thought about previously? We've got a cute little penguin gif, so cute, to help motivate you. I'll just give you guys a minute and wait for some answers to come in. So we've got something come in from Matt who said, you've helped remind me we should highlight more stories from our service users on an ongoing basis, not just for big campaigns and projects. Definitely, I think that's really important. Looking at how you're targeting your audience outside of just campaign. There's like an 80-20 rule. So the idea is that only 20% of your content should be ask-based, and then 80% should be relationship building. And definitely, I think storytelling forms a big part of that. And I think, Matt, once you've done that, you would have ticked that off. So thank you so much for sharing. And then we've got Sarah saying, we want to put our service users in the foreground always, almost exactly the same as Matt shared. Yes. Chat is moving so fast now. And then we've got Siobhan saying, if I could get back to your comment. We have an upcoming conference on urban greening, so our focus over the next couple of weeks will be on telling stories about what to expect on the day to inspire people to sign up. That's a really good idea, and that is the behind the scenes kind of storytelling we definitely suggested, and I think we spoke about in our one-to-one. So that's definitely a really good one. Thank you so much for sharing, Siobhan. Jude says, oh, this chat is jumping around. Use these tools to repurpose some of our longer form stories, blogs, etc., into shorter digital ready content for fundraising ask. And that's actually one of my favorite things to do is just repurposing any old content you have lying around your website, or maybe you've got something that someone has sent in. There's always more than three ways you could repurpose a quote or kind of pull apart a story and frame it for your different target audiences that you have in mind. So definitely a really good idea and shout. Thanks so much for sharing, Jude. And then we've got Kerry saying, helps me to think about the importance of connecting people to our existing materials. Again, yeah, definitely repurpose the content and have a look at the stuff that is hiding on your website. There's always so much like hidden gold mines and websites, like even the way you kind of phrased something, your mission statement, maybe it's a blog post your CEO or someone in your organization has done in the past. How would people want to hear that coming from you again? So for instance, if you have a more professional audience in mind, maybe you could repurpose it as a thought leadership piece on LinkedIn or anything of that sort. So thanks so much for sharing. Okay, I'm going to let you guys carry on sharing your amazing insights and takeaways from this session, but you can continue the session on this conversation on in our WhatsApp group chat, which I'll be sharing the link to again a little bit later on. But I highly do recommend just having a little bit of conversation in your groups. There's always so much to come from just hearing what people in a similar organization or area or sector are doing. So let's have a look at your next steps. So first we have your storytelling playlist on Nightfall Academy. So the link for that will be shared. Definitely have a look at that and explore the different courses that lie there. The story mapping one that I just mentioned before is super helpful. I definitely use that in line with our storytelling for impact tool. And then last but not least, you can refine your stories by booking in that one-to-one session with one of our digital expert coaches. I do like calling myself an expert sometimes. And we can work on your storytelling and maybe kind of feedback and see how it can align better with your target audiences. And then, as I mentioned, please do continue the conversation. We have a Facebook group that you can join, and also your cohort designated WhatsApp group. So have a feel free to scan the QR code now or click on the links that Jasmine will be sharing. Such great discussion happening in this chat. I love to see it. Okay, so now I'm going to launch our final poll of today. So do let us know, how confident do you feel about telling your organization's story online now? And also do rate the usefulness of this session. And while you all have a vote on there, I'm going to open up the floor to any questions that you have about anything that we've spoken about here today or the program. So feel free to come off mute or share in the chat. Great point there, actually. I can see that you made in the chat there, Matt, about case studies. I feel like, yeah, definitely framing a story as a case study is very like funder focused, and trying to dissect that in a way that kind of resonates more with maybe individual donors may be different on your social media. So definitely a great question to explore. And also great to hear that everything today was very clear. So if there's no more questions, do feel free to, if anything does arise, please do message us or email us on support@lightful.com. There's always someone there ready to reply. But thank you all for listening and for your participation. It's been really great hosting this workshop, one of my favorites. So yeah, thank you everyone for coming along, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye everyone.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you.